The day I was diagnosed with late-stage lung cancer, I lost the cat that Cornell and his ex-girlfriend had raised. He told me, "Fanny, if you can't find the cat, don't bother coming back." Later, I died outside, never returning to our home. When diagnosed, the doctor asked me seriously, "Why did you wait so long to come to the hospital after suffering from cough and tinnitus for so long?" I thought it was just allergies to the cat. The doctor seemed puzzled. "You keep a cat even though you're allergic?" Yes, it was Cornell's and his ex-girlfriend's cat. As I walked out of the hospital, I was still in shock. That morning, Cornell had left without properly closing the bedroom door, and the cat, named Shadow by his ex because it always clung to Cornell and was distant with everyone else, had sneaked in. Whenever Cornell was away, it would jump onto the bed and curl up where he had slept. Being allergic, I would start coughing and sneezing. But this time it was severe. I woke up coughing painfully, and seeing streaks of blood in my hand. I was stunned. I had never thought a small allergy could lead to a major issue, but the doctor told me my lung cancer had reached an advanced stage, even spreading to my brain. It turned out this was the real reason behind my cough and frequent loss of hearing. After leaving the hospital, I wandered the streets aimlessly, feeling heavy, weak, and debilitated. I seemed fine in the morning when I came for the checkup. Maybe it was psychological, but I felt like I was about to die. Subconsciously, I took out a cigarette from my pocket and then put it back. Dazed, I returned home, went into the bedroom, took my medicine, and curled up under the covers, my mind blank, as the light faded from the window. And when I next opened my eyes, it was Cornell who woke me. His cold gaze fixed on me. He was saying something, for a moment. I couldn't hear him clearly, just saw his lips moving, his demeanor very somber. Also, the front door wasn't shut properly, and Shadow is gone. "Did you know?" I tried to muster some energy. "Did you look inside the house?" Shadow didn't like going out but enjoyed hiding in dark corners, likely somewhere inside. "What do you think?" Cornell retorted. "Why didn't you shut the door properly? Did you do it on purpose?" "What?" I wondered if my tinnitus was causing hallucinations. "Who in their right mind intentionally leaves the door open?" I sighed lightly. "It wasn't intentional. I'm dying." I really didn't notice whether I had closed the door, and I didn't mean to lose Shadow. I've endured it for 7 years, and with only a few days left, can't I endure a little longer? But I couldn't say this to him. I feared making him sad, and even more, feared that he wouldn't be sad. Cornell was angry at my indifferent attitude. "Fanny, it's just a cat, why must you antagonize it?" That wasn't the nastiest thing he'd ever said, nor the most hurtful, but it stung. If it had been before, I definitely would have apologized, softened, tried to appease him, but I'm so tired now. I wished he would console me. "What if I say yes?" I looked up at him, my tone even. "You know I'm allergic to cats. Is it really that hard to give it to a family member or have a friend take care of it?" He paused for a moment. Then his narrow eyes and brows revealed a chill. "Do you even know what you're saying? If you couldn't accept Shadow from the start, you shouldn't have said those grand-sounding words. You know what I hate the most." I remained silent. Of course, I knew. Cornell frowned at me. "Fanny, if Shadow goes missing, don't bother coming back." With that, he slammed the door and left. The faint hope in my heart instantly burst like a bubble. It was as if I had awakened from a deep dream, suddenly understanding. No matter how many years I had been by his side, I was just someone less significant than his ex-girlfriend's cat. Cornell hates deceit the most. You have to follow through with what you promise him, otherwise, he becomes very difficult to deal with. Back in college when we were dating, I once promised to celebrate his birthday with him, but on his birthday, as I waited for him after class, I saw from the window of the lecture hall that a girl was sitting next to him, eagerly leaning towards him while he remained passive and indifferent, his expression cold and uncaring. Sensing something, he turned his head and saw me through the window. I just turned and walked away. I thought he would apologize and try to make it up to me, but the next morning, I found he had blocked all my contact information. He ignored me for a long time, no matter how much I apologized. His indifference made me feel like our relationship was ending. Then one evening, as I was waiting for him after class, it suddenly started to rain. I hadn't brought an umbrella, and he walked straight into the rain with a black umbrella, not even glancing at me. His figure quickly disappeared into the bustling crowd. The lights in the building went out one by one behind me. In the empty campus, only a few security guards in raincoats with flashlights patrolled, urging me to head back to the dormitory. I whispered into the rain, Cornell, I don't want to like you anymore. As I walked into the rain, crying, the campus was nearly deserted, allowing me to cry out loud. Then, at the corner, a pair of cold hands suddenly pulled me into an embrace. I gasped, breath taken away, as a flashlight beam from a security guard approached. Cornell tilted the umbrella to block the light. Clutching his collar, I sobbed on my tiptoes. He wiped the tears from the corner of my eyes impatiently. Stop crying, Cornell. I called his name softly. Can you stop being mad? He let out a mocking laugh, his pale face colder and more distant than the moonlight. You're afraid of me being angry. I reached out and tightly clutched his clothes, tiptoeing closer to him. He looked up to avoid me, and my nose bumped right into his chin. Cornell, I'll be with you on every birthday from now on. I mean it. He looked down, his gaze deep as he looked at me. I swear, may a liar swallow 1,000 needles. Later, he carried me back to the girls' dormitory. The water on the ground reflected our intersecting shadows. Each time we fought and reconciled, we became more clingy than usual, but it was just for a while. Cornell, I really like you. Do you like me? So why didn't you push her away? I felt Cornell's footsteps pause, and he lazily said, what are you doubting? Do you think just anyone will do for me? My cold hand touched his face. No, it's not that. It's just that you have too many options, and it scares me, Fanny. You're my girlfriend, why are you worried? That's how we reconciled. After that incident, I kept every promise I made to Cornell, including swearing on our wedding day that I'd never let him send the cat away. I didn't really mean to make him send Shadow away just now. I just wanted him to coax me. Cornell must be starting to dislike me again. Cornell has a reason for hating deceit. His ex-girlfriend Layla cheated on him for over half a year, juggling him with another guy. They were childhood sweethearts, well-matched in every aspect. Everyone assumed Cornell belonged to Layla even before they got together. Their names even seemed perfectly paired. Layla attended the university next to ours. She dazzled everyone when she visited our class during her freshman year, brimming with a captivating charm that made many girls who liked Cornell back off. However, no one expected her to cheat. Embarrassingly, it wasn't even Cornell who discovered Layla's affair. A high school classmate saw her cozying up with another during a date and took a photo, which after some gossip, reached Cornell's ears. Proud and pampered from a young age, Cornell couldn't tolerate being betrayed. Their breakup was dramatic. He even confronted and fought the other guy at the neighboring school. He didn't want to break up, but his pride left him no choice. After breaking up with his ex, Cornell changed. It seemed he couldn't truly love someone deeply anymore. Yet, he has been with me for 7 years. I've tested many times how much Layla still means to him. Once, I pretended to accidentally break a cup she gave him, and he lashed out at me furiously. I still remember his harsh words, I've already married you. What more do you want? Perhaps it wasn't just said in anger, but was his true feelings. Since then, I never touched anything his ex left behind, including her cat. I know, she is his bottom line. I've lived in this house filled with our memories for 7 years, yet I always felt like an outsider. I thought I had enough love to wear away his past. I thought my presence would gradually erase the moonlight in his heart. I thought we'd be together forever. All were just my assumptions. I finally got out of bed and put on a mask to look for the cat. I was indeed at fault here. Cancer is no excuse. I have no idea where Shadow has gone. I've searched the entire neighborhood to no avail. My whole body aches, and a persistent cough haunts me. Unable to walk further, I sat down beside the trash cans downstairs. Before slamming the door, Cornell said if I couldn't find Shadow, I shouldn't bother coming back. I felt like trash he could easily discard. The ginkgo leaves lay scattered all around, unnoticed. No one cares about the life or death of a leaf, just as no one cares about mine. Even the bad-tempered Shadow is loved, but no one loves me. I couldn't help but wonder, if one day I got lost, would Cornell look for me? My legs numb from squatting, I suddenly remembered a resident mentioning seeing a stray cat in the parking lot, so I headed there, unexpectedly. I saw Cornell's ex sitting in the passenger seat crying. While Cornell spoke to her gently, his usually cold and unruly face softened with a smile. In that moment, overwhelming pain swept through me. My heart was numb, but my lungs ached severely. I desperately covered my mouth with a mask, muffling the intense coughs, and hid behind a pillar. Tears and mucus flowed freely from the physiological reaction. It was a pathetic sight. Thankfully he didn't see me. At this moment, I felt more exhausted than sad or angry. I wanted to escape. But I was enveloped by a boundless, invisible dark shadow with nowhere to run. Eventually, I dragged my weary body home. I'm not a cold-hearted person, but right now, I really don't care where his cat has gone. I just want to rest. I'm so tired. I walked into the guest room, opened the drawer under the closet, and to my relief, found Shadow curled up asleep inside. In that instant, I breathed a sigh of relief, glad it wasn't lost. At that moment, I realized that I was still afraid of him getting angry, a fear that seemed to have become an instinct, ingrained deep within my bones. Shadow slowly woke up, looking at me innocently and meowing as if to apologize. I reached out to pet it, but before I could touch it, I started coughing, tasting a metallic sweetness in my throat. Shadow meowed louder. I gently touched its head, unusually. It didn't shy away, but instead nuzzled my palm. I picked up Shadow, and it behaved. Not struggling, a sign of its prideful nature, though it was clingy with Cornell, it resisted even him when picked up, afraid to scare it. I tried not to cough loudly. As soon as I set it down, it distanced itself from me. I paused, then realized, it was afraid I would feel pain. I didn't cry when I was diagnosed with late-stage cancer, nor when Cornell yelled at me, but at this moment, tears suddenly flowed. Shadow showed concern, but Cornell did not. It kept watching me. Its little face serious. I reassured Shadow, I'm okay, I'm just sick, don't worry. I took out the medical report from the drawer, soaked it in the kitchen sink, and then threw it in the trash. Like the final chapter of my life, after feeding Shadow, my coughing worsened, even bringing up blood, a bright red liquid continuously flowing from the corner of my mouth. I leaned over the toilet, crying earth-shatteringly. If Cornell were home at this moment, the pain wouldn't be so bad. I really wanted to hug him. He's more effective than painkillers, but he wouldn't come back. He was comforting his crying ex. Shadow lingered outside the bathroom, too afraid to come closer. Once I calmed down, I cleaned both the toilet and myself, then sent Cornell a message that Shadow was home. He didn't reply. I quietly sat in the living room waiting. It was 9 o'clock in the evening. He still hadn't returned. I hadn't eaten all day. I wondered if Cornell had eaten. He developed a stomach condition after his breakup with his ex, drinking his health away. During the 7 years we've been together, I never managed to nurse his stomach back to health. He doesn't like the meals I cook, nor does he like me. I've known this for a long time. I've seen how he behaves when he really likes someone. Yet, I never expected him to get back in touch with Layla. They had parted on such bad terms, seemingly never to speak again. He's always been so proud. Could he really forgive an infidelity? What are they doing now in the parking lot, after 7 years apart? They must have a lot to catch up on. My mind raced with wild thoughts. I decided to just make some porridge. Around 10 o'clock, Cornell came back, carrying a faint scent that wasn't his own. Shadow, our pet, immediately ran over and circled around his feet before rubbing against him. He crouched down, hugged Shadow, and gently kissed its head, all under the soft glow of the floor lamp. I envied Shadow. It had the courage to be close to him. I was jealous of Shadow too. It only had to be lost for a little while to receive so much of his attention. What then could Layla gain from being lost for 7 years? 7 years of longing and love. 3 hours worth of love talk that couldn't be finished. I watched silently, not making a sound to interrupt. In a few days, I'll be sending Shadow away, he suddenly said. To Layla's. I didn't ask. It's okay. You don't have to send him away. It doesn't matter anymore. Cornell, I don't need your answers anymore. I made some porridge. You might want to have some, I said, not knowing what else to say. As I approached, Shadow suddenly jumped out of Cornell's arms. He looked at me with a dark expression. I couldn't understand what I had done to upset him. But thinking about Shadow's reaction, I realized, could he suspect that I had done something to Shadow? I found it a bit funny and actually laughed. Cornell, after 7 years together, do you really see me as some kind of cat-abusing freak? He rubbed his forehead, clearly not in the mood to talk. That's not what I meant. I didn't reply. He turned and went to the kitchen to serve some porridge. He took a sip, frowned, and put down the spoon, but said nothing. I stood in the corner watching him, like a gloomy spirit, and blurted out, Cornell, if you don't like my cooking, you don't have to eat it. Nobody is forcing you. Just like you don't have to love me or marry me. If you want a divorce, just say it. But Could you please not make me feel like everything I do is wrong? Could you not make me feel like an outsider who could be chased away at any moment? Could you not make me feel this heartbroken? It's worse than death. The image of him wiping his ex's tears came to me like a delayed, dull pain, like a sharp knife. It sliced through my heart, pierced my bones, and tormented my soul. If there truly is a hell, it's in the basement downstairs. Cornell looked up at me, his eyes narrow and mocking. He threw the spoon into the sink and then dumped the porridge in the trash. I saw him speaking, but I couldn't make out what he was saying. The ringing in my ears started again. I fell silent, before I was close to death. My love had already perished. At night, I stayed alone in the guest bedroom. I coughed continuously throughout the night. His house was so well insulated that he couldn't hear a thing. Meanwhile, my briefly restored hearing faintly picked up the sound of shadow scratching at the door. It was only as dawn approached that I finally drifted into a fitful sleep. I dreamt of military training at the university, where I fainted from heatstroke and fell backward into someone's arms amidst the jeers of many. I still remember his rough voice, brushing past my ear like the wind. I have a girlfriend now, he said, yet he still carried me to the infirmary. I whispered from behind him, sorry, I must be heavy. Not at all heavy, he replied. The dream abruptly ended. I woke up in tears. How wonderful it would have been if time had stopped right at that moment. My lungs hurt, my whole body ached. In the early morning, I started making porridge again, as if nothing had happened the night before. Cornell left the house without even a glance at me. After taking some medicine, I lay motionless with an eye mask on, curled up in the lounge chair on the balcony. My best friend called, asking what was going on with Cornell and his ex, mentioning that he had brought his ex to their company for a business discussion today. If it weren't for the huge deal, she almost couldn't resist slapping him. The autumn wind was cool, blowing harshly into my lungs, and I started coughing again. I could hear the frustration in my friend's voice. Can't you get rid of that cat already? If you keep coughing like this, it will be the death of you. I covered my aching lungs, trying to make my voice sound not so terrible. Judy, don't worry. There's no future between me and Cornell. Even if he gets back with his ex, it doesn't matter to me. Don't trouble yourself over him. Be careful not to lose your job over this. I'd feel terrible. As for Shadow, he's more adorable than Cornell. Of course I can't send him away. What? When did you become so clear-headed? I chuckled. Stop talking nonsense. Just focus on your work. It's not over yet. You guys are still not divorced. If our friends knew about this, they'd definitely laugh at you for being cheated on. Why not just get divorced? They say it's better to demolish 10 temples than destroy one marriage. But I'm going to destroy this marriage today. Alright, Cornell and I were cold to each other because of the incident with the cat. I used to always coax him first, but now, I'm in pain in weird places every day, sometimes even feeling dizzy to the point of vomiting, often coughing up blood, experiencing tinnitus, so I really can't deal with him. I don't even want to. I quit my job and became a jobless person, spending my days at home soaking up the sun. After all, pretending to be normal has drained all my energy, and Cornell knows nothing about this. Am I really that good an actress? Late at night, Cornell opened the door to the guest room. He reeked of alcohol, mixed with a mysterious scent. As he approached, I, who hadn't slept, frowned and started coughing, fearing I might vomit blood. I pushed him away. He fell to the ground. Clearly, he was drunk, but it seemed like I was the one with too much strength. Fanny, can't you just... I couldn't hear what he was saying, but seeing him look so dejected, I instinctively softened. The floor is cold, I said, extending my hand to him. His hand was warm and burning hot. Go take a shower, I'll make you some hangover soup. He held my hand tightly and didn't let go. After a while, he took out a piece of candy from his pocket and gently placed it in my hand. I glanced down. It was a piece of sour candy from a foreign brand, the kind Layla loved. I had seen it on her Instagram. But Cornell, I have a toothache. I can't handle sour. I'm also terrified of anything sour. After Cornell entered the bathroom, I threw the candy into the trash can, along with our 7 years of emotions. In fact, it was more than 7 years, but it doesn't matter anymore. Cornell, this time, I don't want you anymore. I never thought that the last straw for our relationship would be a mere piece of candy. After Cornell took a shower, he seemed to sober up and didn't make any more outrageous moves. Dressed in a black pajama, he quietly sat at the dining table, Drink this and go to sleep early, I said as I placed the sobering soup in front of him. After taking a sip, he immediately spat it back into the bowl. Fanny, if you don't want to make it, then don't, he said, leaning back in his chair, looking utterly disappointed. I picked up the bowl and threw it into the sink, creating a loud noise. Then find someone else who can make it better, and don't drink mine. Cornell's cold gaze was tinged with anger. What do you mean by that? And what do you mean by taking Layla to Judy's company? Did she tell you through Judy that you're getting back together? Are you trying to force me to make room for Layla? He paused, and then his expression turned slightly strange. As if he wasn't as angry anymore. She's now my assistant. I cut him off before he could finish. Cornell, you could have just told me directly. No need for beating around the bush. I can let you be. He froze, his expression gradually turning sarcastic. Cornell scoffed. How generous of you. Looking at his face, I suddenly felt he was a stranger. I didn't understand what he meant by his words. After being together for 7 years, why do I still feel like I don't know Cornell at all? I didn't want to argue, so I said, Cornell, our wedding anniversary is in 2 days. Let's go hiking, the mountain we climbed during college. Perhaps the change of topic was too abrupt. He seemed confused but eventually said, whatever you say. Hiking was strenuous for me. Thankfully there was a cable car. I messaged Cornell to meet me at the mountain top. Long after the agreed time, he finally called. Fanny, something came up at work. I can't make it. You should head home early. Was it really work, or was it Layla? Cornell, if you don't come today, then, let's get a divorce. Fanny, Cornell suddenly roared. Layla had an accident. It's serious. I really can't make it. As for the divorce, don't threaten me with that. After saying that, he hung up, threatening him with divorce. Indeed, this wasn't the first time I'd brought it up. We had been together for 7 years, married for 3. It wasn't possible that divorce had never been mentioned. I had my capricious moments too, back when Cornell first started his business and would return from networking events with glaring lipstick marks on his suit. I would get furious, even though I knew he wouldn't cheat. It was just someone else's ploy. It still consumed my rationality. I cried and threw his suit on the floor, threatening divorce if he went to another event. He just sat there in a white shirt on the sofa, a trace of weariness on his face. He looked at me with cold eyes. Suit yourself. His arrogance was fueled by my indulgence. I could even clearly see the unspoken words in his eyes. Can you bear to let go? Yes, I couldn't bear it. The person I cherished most. How could I possibly give up on him? My sunk costs were too high. Over the years, he remained the same, squandering my love recklessly. But I had changed. Now, it wasn't about threatening him with divorce to make him care more about me. I simply didn't want to die bearing the title of his wife. I could be anyone, but I would no longer be his lover, would rather die than love him again. After I first threatened Cornell with divorce, he ignored me, treating me like air at home. I deliberately made noises to attract his attention, to no avail. I accidentally bumped into the corner of the table and cried out, but it was useless. I didn't want to bother with him anymore. Until I saw the red flower oil on the bedside table, my love for him peaked instantly. I always ended up giving him much more credit for the slightest kindness he showed. That night, Cornell turned his back to me. I softly asked in his ear, Cornell, are you asleep? His voice was cold and indifferent. Yes, I'm asleep. Don't be mad at me anymore. I was wrong. I won't mention divorce again. I came in front of him, crouched by the bed, and looked at him pitifully. Cornell, he snorted coldly. Stop it. I'm tired, but I want you to hold me as I sleep, Fanny. You're really annoying. I'm not annoying. I just like you. I looked at him with a grievance. If you hold me, I won't bother you anymore. Reluctantly, Cornell pulled me into his arms. Cornell, you are mine, so, can you push away those who get close to you, please? Suddenly, Cornell's eyes became fervent. Since you're not sleepy, let's not sleep. Cornell, do you like me, Fanny? What do you think? I didn't know. I really didn't. At that time, Layla hadn't come back. And he was occasionally willing to indulge me. I was always helplessly immersed in his sporadic tenderness, as if a bit of sweetness could forgive all the bitterness. But that wasn't the case. The grievances never disappeared. They grew like a snowball, getting bigger and bigger, until no amount of sweetness he gave could cover the bitterness in my heart anymore. Like that night, after I threw away his sweets, I found a big jar of colorful candies on the table. They looked really pretty and sweet, but I didn't want them anymore. Oh, Cornell, please don't suddenly realize you like me after you lose me. It would make me feel disgusted and cheap. After returning home, I started packing my bags. Shadow was quietly observing me, unexpectedly. I left this place before it did. Shadow, you've successfully risen to the top. I teased it, before leaving. I placed the divorce agreement on the living room table and did a final check to make sure I hadn't left anything behind. Then, I finally left. Goodbye, Shadow. The cat rubbed against me and meowed twice. I wondered if it would miss me after I was gone, or just more boldly take over my space. The last time I opened Cornell's Instagram, he hadn't updated it for 7 years, but the posts from 7 years ago were still there. They were few, but all about Layla, in high school. After finishing an exam early, he would wait outside her classroom, teasing her about her slow handwriting. During the last class in the morning, when her teacher would drag on the lesson, he'd wait by the door to go to lunch with her, joking that she was like a pufferfish, getting angry if he didn't wait. During evening self-study, he would occasionally sneak off to play games but would always show up at the school gates at 9:30 p.m. to walk her home. There were no passionate memories of being in love, no mention of love, yet it was all about love. Layla was the only person he truly cared about. In Layla's Instagram, the person who didn't smile in our wedding photos was laughing freely and boldly in her shots. In their high school graduation photo, they stood together. Even the sunlight seemed to favor them. My heart felt empty, but it didn't hurt. I uninstalled Instagram, putting an end to peeking into their lives. After learning about my divorce, Judy decided to celebrate my return to singlehood by taking me out to a bar. That night, I wore bright red lipstick, a black strapless long dress, and sat in a booth smoking. It was too late to quit smoking, so I just gave up completely. Judy wanted to pull me to dance, but I simply didn't have the energy and refused. When my cigarette was nearly finished, someone approached and bent down to ask, "Excuse me, could I borrow a lighter?" I looked up and our eyes met. His were deep and dark under the bright light above him. For a moment, I was disoriented. The cigarette in my mouth then burned down to a bright red ember, as if it were the last flicker of life. In a daze, I remembered how I got together with Cornell. It was also about a cigarette. He was usually in the bar back then, after breaking up with Layla. He often spent his nights drinking, and his days either skipping classes or sleeping through them openly. Because he was top of our class, our supervisor turned a blind eye, not imposing any serious consequences. Cornell's eyes were red from drinking as he played truth or dare with friends. He lost and chose a dare. Some cheered him on to confess to a girl in the bar. He approached me, likely because I looked like someone who loved to play and wouldn't care much if things went south. My features carried a bit of aggression, especially when I was indifferent, which made me seem harsh. I was nothing like his beloved Layla. Perhaps that was why he chose me. He took my cigarette, took a drag, and then blew the smoke in my face. Want to try dating me? I was dizzy and disoriented, almost as if intoxicated by the smoke. I asked, why? His thin eyebrows and eyes were slightly reddened by the alcohol, and he looked at me carelessly. Don't like me, like it, I nodded. Then he leaned in close. It was a kiss tinged with the scent of mint cigarettes. Through the hazy smoke, I saw a man standing amidst ruins. A woman had set a massive fire in his world. He had no home now, so it didn't matter who he was with. I thought that night was just a drunken dream, but we really ended up together. He took just one step towards me, and then I willingly took 99 steps towards him. During classes, he would sit next to me, occasionally bringing breakfast for me if it was an early class. In front of friends, he would openly call me his girlfriend and share pictures of me on social media. However, that was all he could offer me. I even suspected that he was only using me to make Layla jealous, as he never gave me real love. As my computer science major was quite challenging, I switched to advertising in my second year. Once, we had planned to have lunch together at the cafeteria. But there was a pop quiz about p-graphs in class, and my lack of proficiency in Photoshop delayed me by 20 minutes. I thought he would wait for me, but the hallway was empty when I left the classroom. I messaged him asking where he was, and he said he was in the cafeteria. That was the first time I lost my temper with him. Why can't you wait just 20 minutes for me? What I really wanted to ask was, why could he wait so long for someone else, but not even 20 minutes for me? Is it different if I wait in the cafeteria? He replied nonchalantly, it is different. I wanted you to wait for me. he hung up on me, and didn't speak to me for 3 days. Eventually, I went to wait for him after his class, wanting to apologize. However, he avoided me. I still remember his movements and the look in his eyes. I followed him all the way to his dorm, waiting outside for a long time before he finally came down. Not to see me but to go to the sports field with his roommate and a basketball. Someone looked at me with pity, but back then, I truly loved him, so I compromised again and again. I brought a case of drinks to the sports field and sat quietly watching him play. It was midsummer, everyone else was tanned, but he was glaringly pale. If I ever have children, I hope they can be as pale as Cornell. Cornell was wiping sweat with his black t-shirt's hem, showing glimpses of his skin. Not wanting others to see, I rushed over and pulled down his shirt, whispering, "Don't let anyone else see." He smirked sarcastically, "Always waiting for you after class, not letting others look. Dating you sure involves a lot of fuss." It sounded like disdain, but also like teasing. I thought he implied he wanted to break up, and I couldn't help but tear up. Just as I was about to let go, he suddenly pulled me into his embrace, swatting away a basketball flying towards me. He turned around and coldly said, "Looking for trouble?" His friends laughed and joked, "Cornell, don't be mad. We were just assisting you. No need to thank us. Bro, we're out." The vast sports field quickly quieted down. Cornell didn't let go, so I slowly wrapped my arms around his waist. "Cornell, I'm sorry, but can you stop being mad, please?" Later on, apologizing became a norm for me, yet I hadn't really done anything wrong. Once, he took me hiking, unaware of my fear of heights. I clung tightly to his arm when we were descending the mountain by cable car. He thought I was trying to assert my dominance in front of his ex, which made him quite impatient with me. Yes, Layla was also in the cable car that day. I later found out it was her birthday. Their simultaneous presence on that mountain wasn't a coincidence. There was a temple where they had once prayed for marital bliss. He ignored her throughout, but his glances kept drifting her way. When the cable car suddenly shook violently midway, Cornell pushed me aside to embrace a frightened Layla. I always knew I was never his priority or preference. I should have let go that day. I was foolish, truly foolish. After 7 years together, I had gradually conceded in his silent battles until I lost myself entirely. "Sister," the young man in front of me called out again. I snapped back to reality and nodded at him. He understood. He bent down, using the cigarette in his mouth to light mine. The next second, someone grabbed him by the collar and threw him to the ground. I hadn't expected to see Cornell here, nor had I expected him to strike someone. I watched coldly. The young man got up to retaliate, but I held his arm and apologized. "Sorry, that's my ex-husband." He turned around, his mouth bleeding slightly. "Sister, it hurts," he said in a clean, plaintive voice. I touched his mouth gently and whispered in his ear, "I'll take you to the hospital in a bit. For now, let's get out of here." Cornell glared at me furiously. "Fanny, we're not even divorced yet. Who are you trying to disgust?" Thankfully, the bright lights at that moment hid my pale complexion. I looked at him expressionlessly. "The divorce agreement only needs your signature. If you're so disgusted, sign it quickly and send it to Judy." As the young man led me away from the bar, Cornell grabbed the wrist of my other hand. "Fanny, you once said that a liar has to swallow 1,000 silver needles." His words were abrupt, but I understood them completely. He despised deceit and wanted me to keep every promise I had made to him. But I've told too many lies, like how I said I'd be with you for every birthday, or how I said I wouldn't divorce you. We looked at each other in silence, and the biggest lie of all, I said I would always like you. It turns out I can't. Cornell, I've told too many lies. 1,000 silver needles are nowhere near enough. I couldn't hear what he said next, and perhaps it was for the best. I was already tired of everything about him. The chaotic, noisy world fell silent in my ears, which felt like a broken radio. The corners of Cornell's eyes were tinged with a hint of pink, and he gripped my hand tightly, his expression lost and confused. I didn't believe he loved me. It was probably just the natural sorrow of losing something. I firmly pulled my hand away. "Cornell, let's end this here, on good terms." He looked at me, teeth clenched, with a fragile stubbornness. "Don't regret this." I was acutely aware that I truly didn't love this man before me anymore. It wasn't because of a terminal illness. It was because he always stood on a high tower, looking down and trampling on others' love. He clearly knew how much I liked him, yet he chose to ignore my grievances and pain, watching me suffer. He proved my love for him by hurting me, over and over, proving that no matter what he was like, no matter how terrible, I would never leave him. But Cornell, the wounds you suffered in your last relationship took me 7 years to heal. Isn't that enough? How much longer do you need to test me? I wish his tower never falls. I hope he stays on top forever, and never falls in love with me. The moment he falls in love with me, he will lose me forever, because my love has already ended. I firmly told him, Cornell, you are the one who did wrong. You are the one who should apologize. You are the one who never says sorry. So it's you who should really not have any regrets. Don't regret after losing, because you have no way back. After leaving the bar, I stuffed some bills into the young man's pocket, for medical expenses. Big sister, you looked really cool just now being so heartless. The young man's silver hair traced a bold arc through the night, a smile playing at his lips. Consider me, maybe. They say the person you like at first sight is liked for a long time, and big sister, you are the one I liked at first sight. Anyway, I'm better than that guy inside, right? Looking at him, he'll definitely have regrets. If he tries to bother you, I can be your shield. I looked into the young man's naive, pure eyes and slowly said, I'm sorry. He suddenly laughed. Big sister, don't apologize. You haven't done anything wrong. If you ever have regrets, you can find me, and I'll take you away. Before leaving, the young man left his phone number in my memo. I slowly deleted the digits. When I got home, I flushed all the medicine down the toilet, then took out a bottle of red wine. I opened it and without waiting for it to breathe, I just grabbed the bottle and started drinking. The cold wine slid down my throat, and I started coughing violently. I spit out mouthfuls of red wine, and as I kept spitting, I realized I hadn't drunk that much. What I was spitting out was blood, lots of it, a continuous flow of blood. Cornell, I lied to you, so I swallowed 1,000 silver needles. I guess that fulfills the promise I made to you. I don't owe you anymore. After that, the sky by the window never brightened again. I couldn't think of a gentle way to say goodbye to this world. Death was its final tenderness to me, before I closed my eyes. It seemed like I saw Cornell as a boy again, his clean brows and eyes, his dark pupils. He was the person I fell for at first sight, the person I loved for 13 whole years. My father passed away early from cancer, and my mother remarried a man prone to violence. Whenever he got drunk, he would beat me and my mom. I wanted her to leave him, but she said he was good to them when he wasn't drunk, a good man. My mom asked me to endure, saying it would get better as I grew up. She didn't have the means to survive on her own. She could only depend on him, lacking the courage to leave. But she didn't realize how scared I was. Even when he was sober, I was constantly on edge, tormented day and night by the fear of not knowing when he would drink again and start hitting. Once, when he was drunk again, I almost got beaten to death for talking back. After my mom refused to divorce him again, I ran away from home one night. I had a fever at the time, and eventually, I couldn't walk any further and crawled into a roadside trash bin, thinking I might as well die there. At dawn, the moment the lid of the trash bin was lifted, the first glance I caught of him, I fell from darkness into daylight. I fell hopelessly in love with him from that moment. Cornell was the light that broke through the darkness of my life. He was my salvation and also my abyss. Our eyes met. He was as beautiful as an angel. He lifted me from the trash bin, took me home, and gave me a very sweet candy. Later on, I always thought, if Cornell hadn't given me that first candy, maybe I wouldn't have greedily wanted a second one. After my mom got pregnant, that man stopped the frequent domestic violence. I stayed in a dormitory and never went back to that home again. During those tough moments working at a convenience store at 4 a.m., when the boss deliberately withheld my wages, when I was called out by teachers for overdue tuition fees. In many such difficult moments, whenever I saw Cornell, I found the courage to keep going, even if he wasn't mine, even if he didn't know me, even if he had forgotten about me. During the 3 years of high school, while he waited for someone else after class, I was always waiting for him. Actually, liking him was really tough, but not liking him would have been even tougher. After the college entrance exams, I went to the university he attended. I thought to myself, every extra glance at the one you love is a bonus. But later, I actually wanted all of his love. I was wrong. I should have forever kept my love a secret. This relationship should never have been exposed to the daylight. Cornell, on our anniversary, I went hiking and visited the temple you and Layla had gone to together. I burned 3 sticks of incense and prayed for one thing from the gods. I asked the gods that in my next life, I may not meet again. Side story, perspective from Cornell. Lately, I've been feeling like Fanny has changed. She seems to be brushing me off. Before, she would appear the moment I got home, but recently she just sits motionless, staring at the TV, which isn't even on. She must know I'm back. I'm quite displeased, so I decided to ignore her intentionally. The food she cooks has also become more careless, and honestly, it tastes really odd. Didn't she even taste it? Her porridge used to be so delicious, and now it's unbearably salty. Even if she's being perfunctory, does she have to take it this far? I've seen how she used to love me, so maybe she doesn't love me anymore. The day Shadow went missing, she was actually asleep in the bedroom. I was really angry. I asked her if she realized how dangerous it was to leave the door unlocked, but she looked at me indifferently, as if annoyed by my concern, and she looked terrible. The anger that had been building up over days finally erupted. And I ended up saying some really harsh words, which I regretted immediately after. I know I should apologize, but I just can't bring myself to say it. It seems like I've never apologized to her. It's as if no matter how I treat her, she won't leave me. While I was out looking for the cat, Layla suddenly called me, saying she was in the underground parking lot and wanted to see me. Honestly, I was a bit annoyed, but we've grown up together, and even though I don't love her anymore, I couldn't just ignore her. She cried and told me that cheaters never end well, revealing that her husband had cheated on her. I felt like laughing but restrained myself, probably out of guilt, and instinctively wiped her tears. She snapped. "I know you want to laugh." Then I said, "You deserve it." She asked if she could work at my company because she needed to earn money for the baby's formula as she was getting a divorce. I agreed. I knew she was trying to take my money. I wanted to use her too, so we struck a deal immediately. After she left, I sat alone in the car for a long time. I was afraid to go home. I was a bit scared. When I got home, I intended to have a proper talk with Fanny. I had decided to give Shadow away for her. She shouldn't be mad at me anymore, but she didn't care at all and wasn't even happy. I looked upset, and she misunderstood, thinking I suspected her of abusing the cat. I was so angry, I couldn't bother to explain. She made the porridge taste awful and spoke in a sarcastic tone. I feel like she really has changed. She doesn't care about me anymore. At night, she didn't come back to the master bedroom to sleep, and I couldn't sleep all night. I'm not used to not holding her. Although my arm was numb, she slept soundly. She really loves cuddles and being held high, and honestly, I love it too, especially when she looks at me with bright eyes and clings to me, asking to be held. She's 100 times cuter than Shadow. I want the old Fanny back, not this cold version of her. I deliberately took Layla to her best friend's company. Her friend has always disliked me, and sure enough, she couldn't help but tattle on me in the pantry. While making coffee, she put the phone on speaker, and I clearly heard her say that there was no future with me. I was angry and deeply hurt. I couldn't believe she no longer loved me. I purposefully gave her the cold shoulder, leaving for the office before dawn and only returning home after she had fallen asleep. Yet, she said nothing. It was as if there was no longer any light or sight of me in her eyes. One night, unable to hold back, I entered the guest room to apologize. I shouldn't have lashed out at her after losing Shadow. I asked her if she could stop being mad, but she remained silent, her expression unchanging. She truly didn't care, and it scared me. When I tried to kiss her, she pushed me away, looking almost nauseous. I was shocked and couldn't believe it. How could she push me away? She had never done that before. Before going home, I stopped by my parents' house, where my nephew asked why I was unhappy. I told him I had done something wrong and that his aunt was very angry with me. He handed me a candy and suggested I apologize, saying even kids understood this simple truth. Why didn't I? I didn't apologize because I was angry she had pushed me away, but I gave her the candy. She threw it in the trash. Her hangover soup tasted awful, and I couldn't help but vomit. Perhaps also fueled by my anger that she had pushed me away, the huge disparity was unbearable. But finally, she mentioned Layla. And just as I was about to suggest sending Layla away, she said she would leave us be. My mind went blank. It wasn't supposed to be like this. How could she say that? She should have been angry or possessively told me she loved me, that I was hers alone and to stay away from Layla. So, we argued again. It seemed she didn't understand. I didn't like Layla or anyone else. I only liked her. after we got together. I never flirted with anyone else. I was so angry that I didn't want to explain myself. I detested her suspicions and distrust, as if I would welcome anyone in her eyes. What I hated even more was the thought that she didn't love me anymore. On our anniversary morning, she left home early, and that's when I saw the divorce papers she'd placed in the drawer. I suddenly understood why she wanted to go hiking. It must have been to dredge up the past and bring up divorce, so I didn't go and lost my temper with her. But I didn't lie. That day, Layla had a fall and nearly miscarried. I was ready to go home with Layla's medical report to apologize and explain, but she was already gone, leaving the divorce papers on the table. She didn't need my explanations anymore. She wasn't threatening me, she genuinely wanted a divorce. In a panic, I tracked her phone and found her at a bar, cozying up to someone else. I hit the man, but I lost her. She stood by his side, opposite me, watching me coldly. I could no longer see any trace of love in those chilling eyes. It seemed I had truly lost her, but she had always said she would love me forever. Even if we fought, she would always love me. As long as I stayed put, she would love me. She was a deceiver. The thought of her not loving me anymore would send me into a frenzy. Words that should have been apologetic turned hurtful. I said, "A liar must swallow 1,000 silver needles. Deceivers never have a good end." She admitted that she had told too many lies for 1,000 silver needles to suffice. She confessed that she no longer liked me. I knew she wasn't lying. At that moment, it felt like she killed my soul. In my life, the one thing I always believed was that Fanny liked Cornell, and that she always would. After she left, I thought of going to her, to win her back. But she didn't love me anymore. I couldn't degrade myself. The days without her were more torturous than I had imagined. My love for her engulfed me like the tide, day and night. It was only after Fanny left that I realized love has a delay. My retribution came, just when I finally decided to swallow my pride and look for her. She vanished like she never existed. I couldn't find her anymore. My phone's GPS had long stopped working. She didn't want me. I never imagined she could be so cruel. The person who never left during countless arguments had now disappeared completely. I even began to doubt if she ever loved me. I admit that after Layla cheated on me, I was resentful. But I wanted to tell her that I had stopped liking Layla long ago. I also wanted to tell her that I was with her because her eyes were captivating. When she looked at me, her eyes seemed to hold a light, and I could always clearly feel her love. From high school to college, her gaze always followed me. I always knew, because I had seen too many such looks, her affection was unmistakable. I suspected Judy was hiding Fanny, so I often waited outside Judy's house. In the cold winter, she came down with a basin of water and threw it in my face, telling me to get lost. She cried and said I deserved it. She told me not to come back and disgust people, to stay as far away as possible. She said many harsh things, so I never went back. Because Fanny would be unhappy, I cooked very salty porridge and ate it all. She didn't return. Shadow also left me not long after. On the day it died, it curled up on the pillow she had used, meowing continuously. I suddenly understood. It also liked her very much, and it stayed away because it knew getting close to her would make her allergic and uncomfortable. Escaping was to avoid hurting her, but I understood too late. I remember during one argument, she said, "Say you're sorry." I didn't. She cried, "How can I forgive you if you won't even say sorry?" But she forgave me anyway. I dreamed of her again. I was waiting for her outside the classroom. She ran towards me and said, "I've waited for you so many times. Now it's your turn to wait for me, fool. I will always wait for you." Then I woke up crying, because I had never really waited for her. Every time she got angry, she was very expressive. Her voice was very soft. When she truly left, it was without a sound. I replaced the front door with a combination lock, setting her birthday as the code, but she never came back home. The candy in the trash was sour, so it deserved to be thrown away, and so did I. Shadow wasn't lost. The porridge was too salty, the hangover soup was bitter, and the truth behind the silent TV was gradually revealed. How many truths don't I know? I only realized that I thought I had made just one mistake. But it turns out I had unwittingly made 9,999, yet, I only apologized to her once. I know she will never forgive me again, for I owe too many apologies. I got used to being liked, to taking others' love for granted. I stood atop the high tower built from her love, feeling good. Eventually, the walls collapsed. Both my love and I perished with the tower. The mistakes I made turned into 1,000 silver needles, each piercing to the bone. In truth, I know my Fanny died in the autumn. She will never return. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.